In 2017, a team at Google published a paper titled "Attention is All You Need," unknowingly triggering a global revolution. This is the story of the transformer architecture, the mathematical breakthrough that allowed machines to finally understand context. Seriously, before we can appreciate the magnitude of this shift, we must understand the landscape of deep learning prior to 2017. For decades, the dominant paradigm for processing sequential data, like language, was the recurrent neural network, or RNN. RNNs processed information linearly, much like a human reading a sentence from left to right. They would take a word, create a mathematical representation, and pass that information forward to the next step. However, this sequential nature was a fundamental flaw. As sentences grew longer, the network would literally forget the beginning of the sequence. Urgent. This was known as the vanishing gradient problem. Even with improvements like long short-term memory units, or LSTMs, which introduced a cell state to act as long-term memory, the models were computationally expensive and struggled with truly long-range dependencies. They were also notoriously difficult to parallelize, meaning we couldn't easily use the massive power of modern GPUs to speed up training. Then came June 12, 2017. 8 researchers proposed a radical new architecture that did away with recurrence entirely. They titled their paper, "Attention is All You Need." The core of their argument was that you didn't need to process words in order. Instead, you could look at every word in a sentence simultaneously and determine which other words were most relevant to its meaning. They called this mechanism self-attention. To understand self-attention, imagine the word bank. In isolation, it is ambiguous. But in the sentence, "The man went to the riverbank to fish," the transformer uses attention to see the words river and fish, instantly assigning them high weights and clarifying the context. It does this using 3 learnable vectors: the query, the key, and the value. Think of it like a retrieval system. Awestruck. The query represents what the current word is looking for, the key represents what every other word in the sequence has to offer, and the value is the actual information being shared once a match is found. Because this calculation is performed via matrix multiplication, the entire sequence can be processed at once, enabling massive parallelization. But if we process everything at once, how does the model know the order of the words? To solve this, the authors introduced positional encoding. They added a unique mathematical signal to each word's embedding, using sine and cosine functions of different frequencies. This allowed the model to maintain a sense of where a word was without needing to process it sequentially. Furthermore, the architecture utilized multi-head attention. Rather than performing a single attention calculation, the model runs multiple heads in parallel, allowing it to capture different types of relationships simultaneously. Awestruck. Since 2017, the transformer has moved far beyond simple translation tasks. It became the backbone of BERT, which revolutionized Google search, and later the GPT series, which brought us into the era of generative AI. It has even crossed over into biology with AlphaFold, using the same attention mechanisms to predict the 3D structures of proteins, solving a 50-year-old grand challenge in science. The transformer didn't just give us better chatbots. It provided a universal architecture for understanding the complex relationships within any dataset. By replacing the rigid linearity of the past with the fluid, interconnected logic of attention, these 8 researchers rewrote the rules of reality for the digital age.